My name is Rachel Turner, and for 12 years I believed I was part of a normal marriage. We lived in Columbus, Ohio. Not a glamorous life. Just a quiet house in a decent neighborhood, 2 reliable cars in the driveway, and a routine that looked stable from the outside. I worked as a project coordinator for a logistics company, bringing home around $60,000 a year. My husband Mark worked in finance, earning more than I did, and he liked to remind me of that fact whenever money came up. In the beginning, I didn't question it. Mark handled all the financial decisions: investments, mortgage payments, retirement, accounts, everything. If I ever asked about money, he would smile in that calm way of his and say the same thing. "Relax, Rachel. Your paycheck is just spending money." At first it sounded harmless. Almost generous. He told me I should enjoy life. Buy clothes, go out with friends, treat myself. Meanwhile, he said he would take care of the serious finances. The mortgage, insurance, savings, taxes, the important things. And for years, I believed him. Every month my salary went straight into our joint account, and Mark moved money around between different accounts he controlled. If I asked where the savings were going, he would explain things quickly, using complicated financial language that made me feel like I was interrupting something important. Eventually I stopped asking. But there is one thing about quiet people that some men never understand. Silence doesn't mean ignorant. It just means someone is paying attention. The moment everything changed started with something small. One Tuesday afternoon, I was sitting at my desk during lunch when my phone buzzed with a notification from our bank. It was a fraud alert asking me to verify a transaction. The amount was $9,000. The purchase description read, "Luxury Hotel Miami Beach." At first I assumed it was a mistake. Mark traveled for work sometimes. But when I opened the banking app, something strange happened. For the first time in years, the system asked me to verify my identity before allowing access. That had never happened before. Once I logged in, the account screen looked different. Not empty, but incomplete. I could see the joint account balance, but several linked accounts were missing. Accounts that used to appear under our shared dashboard had vanished. Savings. Investment, funds, even the college account we were supposedly building for our future. Child. All gone from the screen. For a few seconds I just stared at the phone. Then, something clicked in my mind. I opened my laptop and logged into the bank through the full desktop portal instead of the app. That was when the truth started to unfold. Over the past 4 years, Mark had gradually transferred money from our joint account into a separate financial structure under his name only. Multiple accounts, multiple investment portfolios, and one particular account labeled with something I had never seen before: Palm Horizon Holdings. The balance inside that account was over $400,000, money that used to belong to both of us. My first reaction wasn't anger, it was clarity, because suddenly all those conversations made sense. The way he dismissed my questions, the way he told me my paycheck was just spending money, the way he controlled every financial decision in our marriage. He wasn't protecting our future, he was quietly building his own. That night when Mark came home, he walked through the door carrying takeout food and smiling like nothing in the world had changed. "How was your day?" he asked. "Busy," I said calmly. We ate dinner at the kitchen table like we always did. He talked about work, about a new investment opportunity, about how volatile the market had been lately. I listened carefully. Then I asked a simple question. "Mark, how much do we have in savings right now?" He paused slightly before answering. "About 80,000. He said. I nodded slowly, because I already knew. The real number was closer to 400,000. But the most interesting part was where that money actually sat. Palm Horizon Holdings wasn't just an investment account, it was a business, registered in Florida, owned by Mark and another person, a woman named Emily Carter. It took me less than an hour of research to discover that Emily Carter was the owner of a small consulting company based in Miami, and according to her public social media page, she and Mark had been traveling together quite frequently. Luxury hotels, beach resorts, conference trips, all funded by the account Mark built with money. He slowly moved away from our marriage. For a long time, people assume revenge begins with anger. But the truth is, the most powerful kind of response begins with patience. Over the next 3 weeks, I didn't confront Mark once. Instead, I started doing something else. Learning. I read every financial document I could access. Every tax record, every transfer history, every account registration. The more I looked, the clearer the picture became. Mark had hidden money from our marriage, but he had made one mistake. Because the original joint account where all the funds began still carried both of our names, which meant something very important. Legally, half of that money belonged to me, and in the state of Ohio, transferring shared marital assets into private accounts without disclosure during a marriage carries serious consequences. I contacted a lawyer quietly. Her name was Dana Collins, and after reviewing the documents, she leaned back in her chair and said something simple. "Your husband thinks he's clever," she told me, "but he left a very clear paper trail." Over the next month, we prepared everything carefully: bank statements, transfer histories, business registration documents, even the hotel charges connected to the Miami account. Meanwhile, Mark continued living exactly the same way he always had, confident, comfortable, certain that the quiet wife sitting across the dinner table each night had no idea what he was doing. Then one evening, in early September, he finally made his move. He walked into the kitchen holding an envelope and placed it on the counter. "I think it's time we talk about separating," he said calmly. Inside the envelope were divorce papers. Mark had already planned everything. The financial accounts under his name, the business partnership with Emily, the life he expected to begin once our marriage ended. What he didn't realize was that the documents sitting in my lawyer's office told a very different story. I looked at the envelope for a moment, then I nodded. "Okay," I said quietly. Mark looked relieved. He believed the conversation was over, but the real conversation happened. 3 weeks later, in a downtown courtroom, when Dana presented the financial records to the judge, the room grew very quiet because the document showed something Mark never expected. 4 years of undisclosed transfers from marital funds into private investment accounts. $400,000 moved quietly out of our shared finances, and under state law, that money wasn't just hidden, it was recoverable. By the time the hearing ended, the judge ordered a complete financial review of Mark's accounts. Every dollar from Palm Horizon Holdings was frozen. Every investment portfolio opened for investigation, and the final ruling was simple. Half of everything he tried to hide legally belonged to me. 2 months later, I transferred my share of those funds into a new account under my name. The balance read $212,000. The same paycheck Mark once called spending money had quietly funded half of his secret empire. Mark moved to Florida shortly after the divorce. Emily's consulting business closed not long after that. As for me, I stayed in Columbus. Sometimes people expect stories like this to end with dramatic revenge, but the truth is something much simpler. I bought a small house with my share of the money and started a financial education program for women at a local community center. Because if there is one lesson my marriage taught me, it's this: financial control often hides inside ordinary relationships. And the moment someone tells you that your income doesn't matter, that's usually the moment you should start checking the accounts. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more real-life inspired stories about relationships, betrayal, and quiet justice, make sure you subscribe and stay with us for the next story. Because sometimes the calmest voices tell the most powerful truths.